They say money makes the world go round. But history shows us something darker. Money can drive the world into madness. Imagine people selling their homes just to buy a single tulip bulb. Not because of war, famine, or a revolutionary invention, but because of a collective hysteria formed around the price of something with no intrinsic value. Imagine fortunes rising and collapsing in a single day, driven purely by belief. From tulips in 17th century Holland to NFTs in the 21st century, economic bubbles reveal the most dangerous truth in financial history. When greed takes over, reason shuts down. And every time, the crowd says the same thing, this time it's different. But it never is. To understand bubbles, we must understand the fragile psychology of wealth. Every bubble begins with a promise. The promise of fast riches. The promise of easy financial freedom. The promise of escaping the grinding cycle of ordinary life. In the early stages, everything looks perfectly logical. Prices rise because demand rises. Investors feel smart, visionary, ahead of their time. Then momentum builds. Fear of missing out pulls even more buyers into the market. What's being traded, whether land, stocks, railroads, internet companies, or digital images of sunglasses-wearing monkeys, becomes irrelevant. The only thing that matters is the belief that someone else will buy it tomorrow for more. At the core of every bubble, there is no real wealth. There is the illusion of wealth. And illusions, by their nature, eventually shatter. The most famous example in economic history, still taught by finance professors today, is the Dutch tulip mania of the 1630s. 17th century Holland was a wealthy society. Amsterdam had become a global center of trade and finance. Dutch ships carried goods from Asia, Africa, and the Americas. The Bank of Amsterdam, founded in 1609, was one of the world's first true central banks. People had disposable income and a growing appetite for speculation. Tulips imported from the Ottoman Empire were exotic, rare, and fashionable. Owning a rare variety was like owning a luxury watch or a rare car today. But soon, tulip bulbs shifted from luxury goods to financial instruments. They were no longer bought to be planted, but to be flipped for profit. By 1636, people were trading tulip futures, betting on what bulbs would be worth in the future. At the peak of the bubble, a single rare tulip bulb cost more than a skilled craftsman earned in a year. Some sold for the price of a house. Of course, it didn't last. In the winter of 1637, buyers stopped showing up to auctions. Confidence cracked, and overnight, bulbs that once seemed priceless became unsellable. Prices collapsed. Fortunes were wiped out. The Dutch economy didn't completely collapse, later retellings exaggerated the story. But for individuals, it was total devastation. The lesson was clear: when the price of something disconnects from its real usefulness and survives only on speculation, collapse is inevitable. 2 centuries later, the same human behavior repeated itself in England with the South Sea Bubble. Founded in 1711, the South Sea Company was granted a monopoly on trade with South America. The promise was enormous: the riches of the New World, gold, silver, and vast trade routes. In a clever move, the company converted Britain's government debt into its own shares. As excitement grew, the stock price soared, nearly tenfold within a year. Members of Parliament, aristocrats, and even the king's mistress invested. But there was no real trade. Spain tightly controlled its colonies. The profits were imaginary. When reality collided with excitement, prices collapsed. Thousands were ruined. Even Isaac Newton lost his fortune. He is famously quoted as saying, "I can calculate the motions of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people." That sentence could serve as the summary of every bubble in history. What followed was more of the same. Railways, gold rushes, the 1929 stock market crash, the dot-com bubble, the housing crisis, the cryptomania. Each time the story changed, but human nature never did. Today is no different. Central banks print money. Governments borrow. Investors chase ever greater risk. And once again, people hear the same sentence: don't miss the opportunity. History doesn't repeat itself word for word, but it rhymes. And that rhyme is growing louder. Why are bubbles so dangerous today? Because the financial system is more interconnected, leveraged, and fragile than ever before. What was once a local panic can now become a global crisis. The warning signs are always the same. Prices detach from fundamentals. Credit expands. Experts say this time it's different. And confidence collapses overnight. Bubbles always end. With panic, with pain, sometimes with cleansing. The real tragedy is this: the people who pay the highest price are never the ones who created the crisis. It is always ordinary people. Real wealth is slow, boring, and grounded in reality. Illusions are fast, intoxicating, and lethal. Every bubble begins with a promise, the promise that you can escape history. But history always catches up. The choice is yours. Chase the illusion, or learn from the past and build something real. Because the next bubble is already forming. The question is this: will you be crushed beneath it? Or will you be ready? If this gave you a new perspective, subscribe. History knows the answers. I'll show you where to look.